We recently had the opportunity to sail on Virgin Voyages. This is Richard Branson's adults-only cruise line, and it boasts amazing food, great service, along with over-the-top risque entertainment.
Now, I'll be honest, as we've been on many different cruise lines, but we had been holding off on trying Virgin Voyages because we just weren't sure on whether this was our type of cruise. We didn't know if we were going to love it or whether we were going to hate it. We just had to know, so we finally went on Virgin Voyages. Hi, I'm Jan.
And I'm Tracy, and we recently completed a 5-night Eastern Caribbean cruise aboard the Valiant Lady, part of Virgin Voyages.
Now, we believe that cruising is a personal experience, and two people, even on the same cruise, can have different experiences. So keep in mind that these are just our observations of our 5-night Eastern Caribbean cruise upon Virgin Voyages Valiant Lady.
So we're going to be looking at specific categories, and then we're going to tell you the top 3 things we loved about Virgin Voyages, and those 3 things that we thought that Virgin might have been able to do a little bit better.
Yeah, the categories we're going to be looking at are the embarkation, the ship, our cabin, the service, the food, the entertainment and relaxation, and Virgin's private resort experience, Bimini Beach.
So this cruise happened to be the 3rd of our 4 side-by-side cruises that we did when we sailed out of the port of Miami. And we had just finished coming off of a mega ship, the Carnival Celebration. And we walked from the Carnival terminal over to Terminal V, which is Virgin Voyages. So it was about a quarter of a mile away from our terminal.
Now, because we arrived several hours before embarkation was to commence, we were allowed to do a preliminary check-in where they checked our documents, and then we got our Virgin wristband. And from there wasn't any area to wait. So we actually found that there was a small cafe that's in the actual Port Authority offices right there at the Port of Miami. So we went there. We were able to get a little bite to eat. We were able to get something to drink. They have Wi-Fi. Really wasn't a bad place to wait. And then we returned to Terminal V when our embarkation window was coming up.
So when we did get back to the terminal, a crew member escorted us up the escalator, and then they took us to this new waiting area. This had really, really comfortable seating. It was up on the 2nd floor, and we waited there about 30 minutes.
We weren't the first to get on, as you would imagine. I mean, the first passengers are your rock stars and your VIP cabins, and then there is a series of different priority boarding options that you can pay for that gives you priority boarding. But once those individuals were called, we were called on to be able to board, and all total, it was actually a fairly easy boarding, and our embarkation was about 43 minutes long, and that's not bad considering how early we were before we were supposed to be there.
Now, once on board, we did finally get our first look at this ship, and now there is no doubt that Virgin Voyages has what we will call a unique design. It sports bold colors, lots of reds, but the majority of the ship is done in gray, kind of like a battleship gray, and it does give the ship a very industrial feeling.
Yeah, this industrial feeling really gets echoed as you go into the outdoor spaces, exceptionally. And it's not just the grays, it's really that everything's metal, including the seating, which we thought was a really odd choice for them. And as you go nearby the very small pool, there's actually seems like pipes or even more metal. It just seems like Tracy said, you're more on like being on a battleship than you are on a cruise ship.
Now, inside, the spaces were different than the outside. Some of them were bright and airy, and then some of them were very dimly lit lounge areas. There isn't a traditional atrium either. It's like no big chandelier or anything. Rather, there is a wide spiral staircase, and that serves a focal point for the guests. And we did like some of the areas on the ship, especially a place called Sip, and that was a champagne bar. And in the evenings, it was one of the few places that really seemed calm enough to have a conversation. It's just a really, really loud ship.
Yeah, now in the end, while we usually default on any of our reviews that we could say the ship was beautiful, it was elegant, it was magnificent, we just really find it difficult to call the Valiant Lady beautiful. Unique? Yeah. Innovative? Certainly. But it just isn't a pretty ship.
Now on to our room. We had what they call an XL Sea Terrace, and it was also unique. The room was very, very spacious, and we loved the bathroom. So the bathroom had a separate toilet area, a separate shower area, and it had a very large sink and vanity area. So that was great.
Yeah, the bed area was also a bit of a head scratcher for us. There's a big platform that goes underneath the bed, but then comes out one side, just one side. And we really didn't know what the purpose of this platform was, other than give me something to be able to bash my shins in twice during the cruise. But it turns out that that platform is actually the head support for the bed. When you take the queen or the king size bed, you split it into two twins. That is what it is. You just slide that other bed over, and there you go. It's just a really odd way to do that, and it's the first time we've ever seen that on any of the cruises we've been on.
Now, there was a decent-sized credenza area, and on that credenza, they had a really cool iPad. It was kind of like the master control for your room. So it controlled the lighting, the curtains, the TV, and even like room service if you want to do it. It was fully interactive.
Yeah. Now, another odd feature of the room was the closet. Now, usually on a closet, you have a door, either a sliding door or open door. There was no doors at all. Instead, you just had a curtain to pull across it, which we thought was a very odd choice to make on a premium line, that you just have a curtain. Also, once you do open up that curtain, you find that although there's plenty of space for hanging clothes, there really wasn't a lot of storage for any type of folded clothes. You do have a couple baskets that you can put stuff in, which I thought was kind of odd. You have a large top shelf, but you only have two other shelves underneath the safe. Just not a lot of storage in that room there.
Now, we'd mentioned before, this is an XL Sea Terrace, so the room did have a balcony, and it was decent size. Although, again, kind of an odd configuration. The balcony furniture was metal. It wasn't super comfortable, and it was kind of reminding us of the outdoor areas on the top deck. It did have a small metal table, which would be great for maybe a cup of coffee in the morning, maybe a cocktail in the evening, but I don't think it would have been big enough for room service.
Now, what was comfortable was the famed red hammock on the balcony. Now, I know it's marketed as a hammock, but really it's not long enough to be a hammock. Think of it as more as a nice swinging chair, but it was really comfortable. I really enjoyed relaxing in it on the sea days.
Now, while we might have had some questions about the ship and the room design, we have to say that service overall we thought was really, really good. We had a great room steward, and then when in the sip bar where we kind of spent most of our drinking time, we had a great bar waiter named Collins. He was fantastic. And another great server we had was the evening we went to Galley, which is a Korean barbecue restaurant. We had a super waitress. She was very engaging, and she made the night so much fun.
And speaking of Galley, quite frankly, another highlight of the cruise was the food.
So the Virgin Valiant Lady has over 20 included food eateries on board, and these are all complimentary. There's no traditional buffet, but they do have this place called the Galley, and it was kind of a series of food hall options that you could have. So you could have things like a small bite, you could have tacos, you could have tapas, you could do all-day breakfast, you could do deli sandwiches, and there was even to-go options. So it was pretty good.
Yeah, but well, it was interesting. The food was fine. It wasn't a standout, but the real standout was actually the dining venues at the evening. Now, Virgin does not have traditional main dining rooms. They don't have them. Instead, in the evening, what you have is a series of different specialty restaurants. And what is great about Virgin is they're all included in your fare.
So starting off, we had Pink Agave, and that was a Mexican restaurant on Deck 5, and it was good, but I'll have to say that of the places that we went to in the evenings, it wasn't as good as the other four. It was solid, but the other ones were so much better.
Yeah, like the Wake. Now, what you might expect is actually at the aft of the ship. It's a really beautiful place, and this is the steakhouse which we went to, and Tracy and I had really perfectly cooked steaks. It was a really good dinner.
And then another favorite of ours was, we'd mentioned before, Galley. This is a Korean barbecue restaurant on the ship. Never seen one of those before on a ship, and it's not like hibachi. It's something kind of different. And if you think you're going to have a quiet dinner for two there, think again. I mean, we were at a table with 6 other people. It was tables of 8. You share your table with them, and all the guests, we start playing drinking games, and they do this while the waitress is cooking food in front of you.
Yeah, that's part of the thing, which is great. Now, not only was it really good, I will tell you, by no doubt at all, this is one of the funnest meals we've ever had on a cruise ship. Now, the distinctive twist on all things cruising continues onto our next dining experience, which was the test kitchen.
So the test kitchen is Virgin Virgin Voyages laboratory-themed experimental restaurant, and it offers a rotating set of dishes that you choose. Depending on the night of the cruise you were there, you had different options, and that was really, really neat.
Now, just like a Gumbe, you're going to be joining other guests to enjoy the unique dishes that are plated right in front of you, which is really pretty cool. Now, it is a quieter experience than Gumbe, but the food is just as incredible.
But we think our favorite dinner of all was at Extra Virgin. This is the Valiant Lady's authentic trattoria, and it was some of the best food we've ever had at sea. It was really, really good.
Yeah, now, while several of our dinners provided wonderful entertainment, there is even more entertainment to be found on the ship.
Now, as you can imagine, this is Virgin Voyages. You're going to find bars, lots of bars there, and there aren't really any quiet pub spaces. It seemed like the entire ship and all the bars, that was all that was happening on the ship, just lots of bars.
And they were happening. In fact, about twice a voyage, usually once at the beginning of a voyage and once at the end of the voyage, there's an organized grog walk, what basically is a pub crawl, which is actually organized by the staff, where the staff actually leads you around through 4 or 5 of the bars on board. I believe there is a cost for that. I think it was $50 for each one of the pub crawls on our board, but they very, very loud, but a lot of fun is what it seemed like they were having.
Now, one of the things we found interesting on Virgin Voyages is they don't have a drink package like your traditional X number of dollars a day to get a drink. Instead, you buy a bar tab, and that the minimum purchase is $200, and you can use that on any of the bars on board or at the private resort Bimini Beach, and you can also use it to buy other people drinks.
Yeah. Now, you will also receive a bonus credit that increases with the amount that you put on your tab. For example, for our $200, we received an additional $25 to be able to put onto our bar tab.
But depending on the deals that you had in effect when you book your cruise, you might also receive additional bar tab credit.
Yeah, and you don't want to make the mistake we had is you're going to want to know what credit you have on your bar tab for your cruise, because we didn't check this. And we found ourselves with just 2 nights remaining. We were checking our accounts on the TV, which you can do, and we discovered we had an additional $200 of money to be able to spend on our bar tab that we had no idea that we had. So that's kind of an issue, because whatever money you put on your bar tab, there is no refund if you do not use it all during your cruise. So let's just say we drank very well on our last 2 nights of our cruise.
Now, the other thing that they have that's a little bit different than other cruise lines, they have the Scarlet Party. So MSC will have the White Party, NCL will have the Glow Party. Virgin Scarlet Night is something at a completely different level.
So on other lines, you could actually have these events held and you wouldn't even know it. You're not going to have that for the problem with Scarlet Night. On that night, the lights on the ship, outside the ship, inside the ship are all red. Everyone, I mean everyone, is wearing red. This is a ship-wide event, and it's very, very entertaining. Now, you also are going to find a lot of other entertainment around the ship that, on all the other nights that you're going to find on any other cruise line.
So during the day, they have a lot of neat activities that we really thought were great. One of the ones that we noticed was they have like a throwback to the 70s and 80s, and it was sign up for a 1980s aerobics class where people knew about this in advance. They brought their neon leotards and leg warmers with them. They also had complimentary fun things like adult coloring. You could do friendship bracelet making, and they even had trivia. So they do cater to the activities for sure.
Now, beyond the unlimited and complimentary 1980s vintage video arcade, absolutely our favorite entertainment was the groupie.
So this is an area with private karaoke rooms, and we love to do karaoke. One is for 2 to 4 people, and the other 2 rooms are for larger groups like 8 to 12 people. And the beauty of this is there's no fee there. You just sign up for a 1-hour session and the room is yours. And that, I would say, was the funnest thing we did on the ship.
Absolutely. Now, unfortunately, found that the entertainment in the theater wasn't nearly as entertaining. Now, it wasn't the content. Tracy and I have gone to drag shows before. Really, it doesn't bother us. In fact, we enjoy it. It's going to be very hard to shock us. The problem was the performance of the show just wasn't very good. It kind of reminded me if you went to a small community college and you went to the tryouts for their theater club. That's kind of how bad it was. It just wasn't very good.
And then another issue we had was the poolside experience. Valiant Lady had a tiny pool. I mean, we've seen hot tubs on other ships that were bigger than what we saw in Virgin's pool, and it was packed.
And sitting's odd too. Now, we were able to get get seating next to the pool, but how they set up their seating is very, very odd. You have these basically triangle cubes where you have a square that is basically split into 4 different triangles. And although, yeah, it's plenty of room for one person, but if you have 2 people, it's just not big enough for 2 people to be able to relax. It's just another example of some of the really odd design choices on this ship.
But we did have a day at Bimini Beach, and that's Virgin's private beach area. The beach area from the where we got off the ship, it's about a 30-minute walk from the pier. However, they did have complimentary shuttles, and they took you directly to Bimini Beach.
Now, once we arrived, it really is a really nice area. We really enjoyed it. We walked around for a bit. It has a really large pool that's divided into 2 sections. There's also a beach area with plenty of loungers and shade, but the loungers, man, I'll tell you, it was kind of like a throwback of Tracy and I when we were kids in the 1970s. The loungers, if you remember from the 1970s, the one that had the kind of the vinyl straps that basically, if you were on it long enough, you would stretch out to want to be very comfortable. That is exactly the type of loungers you had and the exact same type of condition. So we looked at that and says, this is not going to be very comfortable, so we decided to relax by the pool.
Now, in the morning when we were there, the area of the pool was a little bit busy, but it was relaxing. So we took advantage of the complimentary food, which was really good, and we worked to pay down our bar tab.
Yeah, but after lunch, man, everything changed. So the pool goes from this very quiet, serene place. After lunch, man, it was happening. The pool was completely full. You had the activities crew basically leading people in dances and songs. The DJs playing music at what I think was like 170 decibels. Everyone is having a blast. It was just such a night and day experience, from the calm, serene time that we had in the morning to the absolute nonstop party you had in the afternoon.
So those were our thoughts regarding this cruise, and that brings us to our thoughts on what we thought were the top 3 things that we really liked about Virgin, and those 3 things that we hoped that they had done a little bit better. So we're going to start with the 3 downs to begin.
And the first that you're probably going to know, it's the ship. And as we stated earlier, it is usual for us to be able to say nice things about this ship. It's beautiful, it's whatever. And I'm not going to go as far to say that the Valiant Lady is ugly. It just simply is not a pretty ship. With the metal and the gray color scheme, it really feels more industrial than inspirational.
And then the second down, I would say, would be the food, specifically in the galley. So the dinner options, as we'd mentioned before, they were amazing. And the food in the galley, it wasn't bad, but it just didn't rise to the level of what we expect from a premium line.
Our last down was the lack of any real quiet spaces on the inside of the ship. Yeah, we were able to go to the SIP, but the problem is with the music and the parties, as soon as the music starts, man, there isn't any one of those places on board where you can have those nice, quiet conversations and relax. It's just unfortunate there was nowhere to basically get away from the noise in the evening.
But there were several things that we really did like about the Valiant Lady. And I'll tell you, our first up was the evening restaurants. We thought they were unique. They were innovative. The test kitchen was fantastic. The Goombai was really entertaining with great food. But most of all is they were delicious.
Yeah, and our second up was the service. The crew was friendly, helpful, and more than one went well beyond what you would think they should. The crew really were the stars of this cruise.
And then the last thing that we really enjoyed about this was nearly everything, every activity, every place that you dined, it was all included in your cruise fare. So whether you wanted to get ice cream or eat hot wings or have delicious pizza or play free video games or sing our lungs out in karaoke, this was all included in the fare, and that was great. So, Jan, are we going to be doing another Virgin cruise?
Well, you and I discussed it. We don't know. Now, in truth, we did go to the Future Cruises. We talked to their cruise consultant because we found that there's really some really good values on the transatlantics and the longer cruises, really inexpensive transatlantics. We love transatlantics. But I don't know if this is our line. Now, listen, this is not a matter that I'm not saying that that Virgin is not a good product. Virgin is a very good product. It's not a matter of the ship. It's us. I don't think we're the right passengers. And it isn't an age thing. There were people in their 70s and older than us that were having a great time. It really becomes the sensibilities. I'm a pub guy. We're pub guys, people. I mean, I like going to a pub, having drinks, having some background music, having conversation, and then occasionally we can go and get onto the dance floor and have the parties, but we like having the refuge there, and that's not this ship. This is a club ship. So, you talk about if it's not for us, who is it for? That's really you. If you're a club person, where you like that nonstop energy and having a nonstop action and the parties and everything, this is a perfect cruise for you. If you're a person that you want to go and have a 4 or 5 night just party, that's it. I think for women, I can see them doing like girls' weekends out or bachelorette parties. This is a perfect cruise for that. I just don't think it's the perfect way for travel for us. We're never going to say never, but we're going to say not for a while. Now, there are some travel that is perfect for us. In fact, go on and watch this video for one of those perfect trips. And as always, until the next horizon, keep on traveling.